I had to craft, with a lot of help from a lot of smart people from all the cabinet agencies and the president, an energy plan, which effectively was designed to implement the measures which in 10 years would have materially reduced the amount of oil we import from the Mideast. It included conservation measures. It included getting prices up at the pump and other BTUs prices up. It included drilling more oil. It included building more nuclear power plants, using coal more efficiently, worrying about the environment at the same time. Never quite got there where the environmentalists would believe that we were trying to be as sensitive as possible. So one of the difficulties we had was the environmental community simply, I don't think they trusted government. And while I had friends in the environmental world, as an institution, they rarely were helpful to us. Even opposed our wanting to get the price up for fossil fuel. Detroit was very uncooperative. The president had the heads of all three into the Oval Office, and I was there. Henry Ford was still running Ford. Smith was running GM, and the Chrysler guy was a long Italian name I just don't remember. Jerry Ford told them that they should help us deregulate prices and get ready for need for more efficient automobiles. They thought he was from Mars. No way the American people weren't going to buy what they made. And up to that point, the American people did. That changed pretty quickly, and of course the Japanese came in and taught them a lesson with Toyota.
Would you describe yourself as an environmentalist?
Environmentalist kind of implies an extreme position. Or an energy advocate is an extreme position. Do I care about the environment, and did I care about the environment? Yes. We put in a 55-mile speed limit. I liked it because the Department of Transportation demonstrated that it saved lives, but it also would save energy. And the governor of Montana, who was complete opposition to it, and he would say to me, you guys in New York take a subway, and my people have to drive 100 miles round trip to go to work. He had a point. So when we enacted the 55-mile speed limit, mandated it, he called me and he said, we enacted a piece of legislation today that said if you get caught speeding in Montana, there's a $5 fine, and then you're paid up for the year. So, and he did it. But you could see he was right. I mean, he was right in advocating for his people and demonstrating the difference. So everything was unusual and unique. The plan that the president sent up to the Congress, whether you liked it or not, was very comprehensive. And if he outlined it in the State of the Union message in 1975, probably a quarter of the State of the Union message dedicated to that. And had it been enacted, we wouldn't have anywhere near the energy issues we have today. Our foreign policy would be substantially different. I don't think we ever would have gone to Iraq. So the world would have been considerably different if the Congress had the courage to take that on. We did get some conservation measures in place. They mandated miles per gallon efficiency. You go to buy an appliance today, there's a label on it that tells you how efficient it is. That's federally mandated. It came out of that period. So we got a number of things done. The president, who was much smarter than I was on these matters, said to me one day that I told him that we were managing to anger both Republicans and Democrats with these initiatives, at which he laughed and he said, that means we have it just right. It was difficult, and that was more civilized. The president, I sat in the Oval Office with the president, Cal Albert, who was Speaker of the House, Mike Mansfield, who was the majority leader, and we would work out deals and get things done. They trusted him. They were Democrats, he was Republican, but they trusted him. And He never went back on his word.
I think if I'm reading you correctly, you don't think that kind of relationship exists very much anymore. Is that?
No way of knowing for sure, but no, it does, certainly doesn't appear to be. And I'm not exactly certain what's happened in the chemistry of Washington, D.C. that has changed so dramatically, and maybe it'll change back. But no, the system worked better. It wasn't perfect. When I asked Carl Albert if he would turn the dome lights off at the Capitol so we could demonstrate conservation, he didn't get a very friendly response. But I was able to ask the question, and he would listen.
What were the alternative sources of energy that you were looking at? Solar energy, one of those on the list?
It was at its infancy.
And wind?
Wind was also at its infancy. Solar energy, I really had a special liking for. I started and I bought some somebody sent me a solar-powered music box, and I still give them out as gifts. But the economics, in terms of the marketplace, it was a long way away.
And climate change wasn't part of a public discussion, as you know, in those
words.
No,
but the need for alternate energy was real, and the president formed the Energy Research and Development Department. It wasn't a full department, but it was an agency, Energy Research and Development Agency, and funded it. But as Obama has recently learned, it's hard to force the science into the marketplace if the marketplace won't support it. And then, remember, Jimmy Carter then started this thing called the Synthetic Fuels Corporation, which put billions of dollars into that area. It was racked with scandal. It made virtually no progress and was dismantled by Ronald Reagan. We still haven't solved the ability of the government's role in determining which of the sciences should be supported most, which product, which company's idea. So we kind of put everything, all the pucks out on the ice, and so you're gonna have some big losers and very few winners. We still haven't solved that issue. There is a role for government in helping to move the science along, but we don't seem to be able to have a handle on it.
So looking back, what did President Ford do wrong in terms of energy policy?
Would have at least tried to get the Congress to agree to a goal. Get the Congress to agree that we should work together so that 10 years from now we're importing 2 million barrels a day less from the Mideast, so whatever the goal, the proper goal, and get them to sign on to that, which I think they'd have a hard time not doing because the American people would hold their feet to the fire.
Was the energy crisis the most important issue to Americans at that time, in your opinion?
It was, for a brief period, and President Ford made it an important problem for the country. People had a taste of standing on gasoline lines or were not able to put their lights on. That memory stood a while. So yeah, there was that brief moment where people were concerned enough to pay attention. Oil prices came down. They didn't really ever come down. They did some areas, but they plateaued for sure. And there was ample supply. Memories got very short. And as I went to Scoop Jackson and said to him, and he was a friend as well as my oversight chairman, I said, look, we just can't let the Congress go to sleep on this. This is just too important. We need to agree on a path going forward. And his comment was really correct. He said, do you know how to make another embargo? And his point was, without the crisis, the system wasn't going to work. People get scared, they'll do what needs to be done. The Congress during the embargo gave me everything I wanted plus stuff I didn't want. And they wouldn't dare take me on publicly because people were scared. I mean, we had hospitals running out of fuel oil. So in a crisis, I think it was Rahm Emanuel said, politically never waste a good crisis. And it's true.